Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. It is the Everton Daily Live Extra. One day we got. One day of peace and quiet without any media reports or anything on Everton's downfall or anything. Today, the media have had somewhat of a busy morning when it comes to Everton and the potential takeover of 777. Some of the stories this morning, I'll just go through some of the stories just to enlighten people. One of the stories this morning is that an airline funded by 777 has gone bust overnight.
It's gone into administration.
Yeah. So that's just laying a little bit of groundwork there. Another story is that 777 have not paid the £20 million that was reported last week. That is another story that is out today. So that has left Everton somewhat short for the month, if you believe the reports.
Okay.
If you believe the reports.
Yeah.
Another story today is 777 have not paid the UK PR company and therefore are no longer working with them, which we can confirm is 100% true, can't we, John?
We can confirm they're not working with them, but not why.
Okay.
But I think the general view would be, I bet you can guess. Yeah. But they're still working with the US one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the big story that's coming.
Of course, Simon Goodley's articles, when he's talking about a loan, we can talk about whether that really is a loan or not.
Okay.
As well, if we want.
All right. Well,
it's 15 million, not 20.
The final story, or the one that's come out in the last hour, is from The Guardian, and it's that
Simon Goodley, yeah.
Everton are calling in a firm of insolvency advisors.
Yep.
Which sort of ties it all together.
It might.
No, I'm just saying that ties it all together for many people.
We shouldn't make leaps of assumption.
No. That's why you're here, to make leaps of assumption.
I don't.
No,
don't do assumption. But
what are you taking out of all that then, from what has happened? Because it does seem almost like if it's like almost like a timeline in many ways, and that's what people might have looked at it as a timeline.
Well, a timeline to going out of business.
No, just a timeline in terms of, well, that one added that one. It all sort of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, what's curious is, as an impartial, you just described it before we came, and now you describe yourself as Switzerland,
yeah,
right? Which I guess is
like
being neutral. Yeah,
because I like Toblerone.
But the channel is neutral. Yeah, and that means we're neutral. A neutral observer would say this doesn't look good.
Yeah,
clearly. In the grand scheme of things, if you're trying to spend hundreds of millions of pounds buying a business, maybe the tens or hundreds of thousands you use with a PR company shouldn't be a concern to you. Yeah. What we do know about 777 as an organisation is they're 2359 people. They do stuff at the very last minute. Right. Now, whether that means 777 will do what they appear to have done in the past, again, none of it is truly fact-based, is it? Because unless you see the paperwork yourself, but there's lots of insight out there, we'll call it. Then maybe they'll pay them eventually, that sort of thing. I don't know. But we spoke with the people who are no longer working with them 6 months ago, right? And they're not working with them now. So we know that, and that's from the horse's mouth in the sense of non-attributable and all that. But I've just sent effectively, a text message to someone. I said, do you work with these guys still? And he said, not at the moment. Yeah. So that's that. But the US firm out of New York are still doing what they're doing. So I guess they're getting paid or their bill's not due. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm being flippant there, aren't I? But the UK PR firm and the insolvency or financial advisory firm, who Everton was told have been called in, are part of the same group. They are the same company. So that becomes wheels within wheels as well, doesn't it? That on one hand, you've got 777 not paying. I don't even know how you say the name. Is it Tenio or however you say it? Right. So you've got 777 allegedly not paying Tenio over here, whilst over there at Everton are securing the services of Tenio to look at, well, it's interesting. People choose to go with articles around their insolvency advisors, but they're also advisors in financial restructuring.
Yeah.
Now, this football club of ours, there isn't anybody out there who's got any, if you like, anorak interest in the finances or has read everything that comes out or watches channels like this and all that sort of stuff, who doesn't know that whatever happens, Everton's finances need to be restructured.
Yeah.
The debt needs to be restructured.
Yeah.
So if you choose to see it as negative, hence why I asked the question, it's on the downslope to going out of business. The alternative is, perhaps, and no one's told me this, by the way, just thought of this on the way in, if you choose to see it as half full rather than half empty, and I think we should all see it as just somewhere in the middle, you could say it's preparing for a change of ownership because that restructuring needs to be done, financial restructuring. There's also the requirements, the legal obligation on the board, which is obviously Colin Chong, Farhad Mashiri, and John Spellman, to act in the best interests of all shareholders to start with, but also the fiduciary obligations require them to send a flag up if they consider that this business is no longer a going concern, right? And that's when that would be your first sign if they do that on a voluntary basis, which is sort of, I suppose, what other businesses do when they voluntarily go into administration, for example. So the fact that they're talking about stuff might be just being to protect their own legal obligations. Because if one of the creditors pulled the plug, MSP, for example, if 777 haven't got the money, then Farhad Mashiri has to provide it in the absence of anyone else. Yeah. If he hasn't got the money, bang, we've got a problem, like serious problem, like we're no longer solvent, right? And if we're no longer solvent, the likeliest outcome of that would be that you go into administration. Then the administrator would come along, start running a football club. Most of, if not all, the creditors would catch a cold to some degree. Farhad Mashiri's interest in Everton Football Club would be history, right? My interest in it would be history. 777 football groups, loans would disappear down a hole they'll never ever get it out of, etc., etc. So you have to ask yourself how much of that, notwithstanding there's some people who think that's a good idea, right, which I don't. I don't think anyone seriously can think that administration's a good idea, right? But if you were going to go out of business for the sake of 15 million quid, when you poured in 200, that literally means you've got no money left at all. Yeah. Right? It's hard to believe that 777 Football Group have got no money left at all. So that's the first thing. It's also even harder to believe Farhad Mashiri has got no money left at all. So when you do that slippy slope thing or timelines, because you probably didn't want to do that, did you? So you did that. Yeah. Down to a pit called administration and all the things that flow from that. Then you could say that's really, really scary, right? But what's really scary is like a comment from the football club. Yeah. Because the football club could say, and it has said privately to shareholders, through the Shareholders Association, that administration is nowhere near close, right? If we talk about, what does that mean? Well, the normal signs of businesses going into administration or approaching insolvency, they stop paying people, right? So lots of rumours. Oh, Everton have one of my mates sent me a WhatsApp. You're watching, John, did you? This morning saying, Everton have dipped into cash to pay the bills. Well, bills are paid with cash, really, right? So, but the point being, there is money within the business, therefore there must be to pay it, mustn't there? It may have believed it was going to take this loan from 777 Football Group and then use that to spend its, pay its day-to-day bills. My understanding is that money was put into escrow, maybe a couple of weeks ago. But they're a 2359 organisation. And if they are a 2359 organisation and they were putting it into a holding place, they'd say, and release this at 2359 on the 30th of May, April, if that's the target. I have no idea what the target is. And no one's telling us, and maybe they won't tell us, maybe they shouldn't tell us. So what we end up with is the information that's publicly available, which is opinion. None of the journalists are going to tell you who told them what they've written, right? But I do clearly know, because we've checked the bits we can check, that there's no smoke without fire. All these stories going back forever about 777 have some truth in them, because they wouldn't get any traction at all if there was no truth at all. But it's just how you choose to look at them, isn't it? And I think the silence from the football club is the bit that ends up all the fans getting all nervous and scared and, oh my goodness, you started this off, we were saying we've had a couple of days without any excreta being thrown at the air conditioning system. And now here we go round that loop again. Well, there's no surprises that it's between football matches when there's nothing to talk about, when these stories will gain most traction and so on. And no doubt Josimar will have written something as well. And it becomes, it's a journalistic echo chamber, just like Twitter X is an echo chamber. And you can't really track stuff back to an original source. And it's a single source that just goes boom, right? And it gains a life of its own as it goes out. So sadly, and Peds, you're here, I'm here, Baz is probably either in bed, about to get up, sitting by a pool. He's going to show us a picture of his feet with some blue water in the background soon enough, and blazing sunshine. But he would not be able to do what I suggest we'll do, is just wait and see.
But that's difficult, isn't it, John?
Well, that's what I mean. Well, I don't find it difficult because I don't.
No, because you understand it.
But people do, and how do you know who to listen to?
And I think that's become...
And who to trust.
Yeah, and that's become...
It's really difficult.
That's become a major thing. This has been... You're absolutely right. I mean, that piece has been reported by The Guardian, but other pieces have been reported...
The Bloomberg one is a bit more accurate.
Yeah, the other pieces have been reported.
I'm not saying Simon's isn't accurate. I'm just saying the Bloomberg one's a bit
from
more.
Last week.
No, it's
the one today, is there?
Yeah, I think so, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's stuff in the Echo and
Well, Echo will be building on these things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're right.
Yeah.
And stuff. Darren Hayward.
I think David didn't he? Maybe he only did a tweet. Let me just check. David Hellier.
Darren Hayward here on the comments says
Everton FC held talks with restructuring advisors after Miami-based 777 Partners has struggled to complete its takeover. Sources say. So you get the sources say. But that's just factual.
Yeah.
And I think that almost certainly, because Everton are talking to restructuring advisors, and you would expect them to be. Yeah. But don't turn that people into, oh my goodness, the world's going to end tomorrow. Yeah. And also don't come to me the day after tomorrow and say, you said it wasn't going to, and it did. Because these things can just trigger like that.
Bonza Airline in Australia placed in voluntary administration, owned by 777 Partners, and also a sponsor of Melbourne Victory, also owned by 777 Partners.
Yeah, that's because creditors pulled the plug on them. The airline leaseholders, wasn't it? Just said, we want our money. Sometimes you have to do that. I mean, it strikes me that 777 are the sort of organisation who operate to deadlines.
These don't look good, though.
Do you want a sporting analogy?
Go on.
Right. You're winning 1-0 with 5 minutes to go. We've been there, haven't we?
Yeah.
And your goalkeeper gets the ball. What does he do?
Boost it up the field.
No, he holds on to it for as long as he can. He wastes time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Whether it's a goal kick,
yeah.
Offside, putting the ball down, attracting people in, all that sort of stuff. Eventually, the referee books him.
Yeah.
Eventually. I mean, some clubs start wasting time in the first half, don't they? Right? Now, the keeper will keep doing it until he gets booked. And then he'll stop time wasting, won't he?
But for what purpose, though?
Because some people like to do things at the last minute. So the analogy is that until you give an organisation, I describe them as 2359 organisation,
I get that,
to do everything just in time, until you tell them there is a line, this is it. And that line's, but bear with me a sec,
go on.
That line is a time and a date.
Yeah.
And it's not today, I don't think, so let's not go there, right? But they will operate to that deadline.
But who's going to give them the deadline?
Well,
that's the problem, isn't it?
If the deadline is about a change of ownership, which is the sale of shares from Farhad Mashiri to 777 Football Group, which we have understood to be conditionally agreed, right? Conditionally agreed last September time, right? And some of those conditions are clearly passing the owners fit and proper owners test by Premier League, which appears to have gone quiet. Sounds to me like it's there, subject to conditions. And some of those conditions we understand because they were sort of published, but we don't know if they are them, but they seem credible. Like you've got to pay off some debt like MSP, you've got to complete the stadium, you've got to have sufficient working capital to keep the business running, certainly to the end of the season, that sort of thing. Now, those conditions include, for example, to keep the business running to the end of the season, you have to hand over either Simon Goodley's 15 million quid or everyone else's belief around 20 million quid each month.
Yeah.
So in April, you have to hand over that number, right? That's a condition. If that condition is not satisfied, or better off presumably, presumably, right? So then you get into a couple of things here, which are, for me, are interesting because they're perceived to be loans. It seems we know that if the sale happens, it's going to become equity. And now it appears it'll become equity whether the sale happens with them or not.
Yeah.
So actually, it's not a loan at all per se. It's buying a shareholder in the football club on the drip, right? And, you can do the sums about what this might result in the shareholding they would have, but clearly it would be a minority shareholding, right? So setting the deadline might be in the sale of shares, sale purchase agreement. You must do this on these dates. And 777, if they are, as it appears, juggling a load of plates, then they are going to, if they have a target, for example, or an objective or an obligation to satisfy something today, for example, today being the last day of April, isn't it, right? Yeah. Then it'll happen today. But is it today in England? Or is it today on the east coast of the United States, which has barely started? Yeah. And we've had this in recent times. We hear about deadlines, don't we? And then someone suddenly pops up and says, oh, well, but it's New York time or Miami time. It's not London time and so on. So we'll know tomorrow, won't we? If there was a deadline and that deadline was not satisfied and that caused material problems to Everton Football Club, we will know.
But I go back to something you said before, John, about paying bills in the last minute and stuff, and then, but also about like
I pay mine as late as I can.
No, but also about fans though, and this is really damaging to the fan base.
Totally agree.
Like if you're going to take over a football club, this is not the way to do it. I was saying something a little bit earlier about there's been protests in Brazil today as well about 777.
Has there? Aren't they fast asleep? Yeah.
Well, it might have been from last night,
okay. But because Vasco was a good news story.
This is a terrible way to take over a football club.
It's not great.
All the comments I'm seeing, it is all negative. It is, every we've just managed to stay up. We know next season's going to be tough. We're already talking about getting things done for the summer, and we're going to lose players, and we know we're going to lose players, and we've got to replace them. And you've got this organisation who've been, obviously they have been giving us money for months and months and months, but all people want is just an end, so we can move on. And this is no real way.
Uncertainty breeds doubt and fear.
Yeah, and we've got enough fear.
Yeah,
we've got enough fear.
Absolutely,
surrounding the football club,
and that's why the silence from the football club, and particularly from the current owner, is not helpful.
What could Everton do?
Well,
legally.
What do you mean by legally?
Well, isn't there we have been told before that they're not allowed to say anything because of the ongoing.
You know what? I challenge anyone at the football club to come and tell me why.
Yeah.
Because I think the football club in the past have always used as almost like a backstop to everything they don't want to answer or commercially sensitive. Now it's apparently, it's legally we can't do it. I'm sorry, but Farhad Moshiri is selling his shares personally from him to someone else.
Yeah.
That's got nothing to do directly with the football club. You know what? If I chose to sell my shares tomorrow, I don't think the football club would be saying legally they can't comment on it. What I mean? So the fact that it's 100,000 shares rather than tens of shares doesn't make a blind bit of difference, right? So the football club has to, in my view, it has particularly social, what you're talking about. But as a social and a professional obligation to try and dampen down unfounded rumours, if it can. Now, he can either do that directly or indirectly, like he could tell the media behind closed doors, say, there's no chance of that happening, right? Or very proactively say, these are difficult times, blah, blah, blah. I mean, most of us would have to read between the lines, but it's better than silence, right? And the culture delivered by Bill Kenwright back in the day, which was very much, in times like this, you don't say anything, is still persisting, right? Now, that just requires the company, the business, the club, and that means Colin Chong ultimately, right? Colin needs to be more aware, and his PR people need to help him about when is the right time to say things and when is the right time not to say anything. And if you've got any consideration for your fan base at all, you should say something. It might mean to most people, they say, well, that doesn't tell us anything. I don't mean it's so damp that it doesn't tell you anything at all, but it needs to give some comfort in the face of business journalists and sporting journalists and overseas journalists all having a free rein to comment. And some of those people are doing really good investigative stuff. And maybe some of the questions can't be answered because the answer would make things worse. Who knows, right? But saying nothing doesn't help. You know, it's like there's no such thing as bad publicity, you know. You've got to say something, and it's the decision of what you say. There's a big media team there, right, who know how to project messages. And Colin should just task them with making an appropriate statement. And if they feel the need to ask the largest shareholder if the statement is okay, they may then have to confront what they do if he says no. Because actually, you've got an obligation to us as well. We'll be here, we, the fans, long after any of these, never mind this owner, the next owners and the owners after that. Our children and grandchildren will be here. So you've got to maintain a future view, right? And the future view has to be an optimistic one, which is we're going to go into next season, our last season at the Old Lady. We're going to have a rip-roaring time. We're going to have a rock-solid season, which may be more, you know, without any points deductions, heaven forbid, we probably expect more, but hey-ho, right? But on a level playing field, we'll be in a comfortable position in that league, and then we will go into Bramley-Moore in the Premier League, and you never know, even in a European competition or something. But you can't just... Projects go late one day at a time. How many times have I said that on that sofa? This one has been going for 200 days. Yeah. And the thing about projects running late one day at a time, you have those moments where you go, how did we get here? Crikey, this isn't where I want to be. It's because you didn't do something back there. Yeah. That's the reason. You know, they not only go late one day at a time, they go wrong one day at a time. And it's never today. But the issue happened. It happened back in the past.
On Wednesday, the manager's going to get asked this question as well.
Of course
He's going to get asked this question, and he's going to have to deflect. And all he'll be saying...
what Andy needs to do, because Andy's the host of Andy Neils, he just needs to tell all those journalists, this is a sporting thing. Don't ask the manager, because he's going to make you look a fool.
But those journalists will say to him, well, then offer somebody up then.
Well, they'll have to do that.
Offer somebody up.
But these are sports journalists coming to press conferences to talk about football.
But they're asked they'll be asked by their boss. But it is football though, isn't it, John? This is all football now.
Sporting side. We know everyone in that room is predominantly a sporting person.
I don't know.
Who wants to know who's injured, who's playing, what did you think about the last game?
I don't know, no, John.
They are the majority.
No, I know, but sport is mixed with business now. You know, we're going to talk after this on Intag about salary caps and stuff like that.
No, I get it. I'm just saying that anyone who's got any experience in managing crisis situations knows that you have to break off the things that are going to contaminate the other one. So the business needs to isolate the sporting side. Sure, they can ask Sean what you think about all this noise, and he'll say, "Oh, we do our best to ignore it." Fantastic. That's it. Move on. Is DCL fit, right? But in the absence of anybody else, you run the risk the manager has to face it. And that means, in the absence of anyone else, our football club has decided that the best person to comment on the change of ownership is the football manager. Now, there's a lot of you in there. There must be somebody who's more appropriate because he's publicly there. Maybe what they've really decided, he's more able to deal with not answering it than somebody else might. But just be a bit more open with people, be a bit more candid, give them something to write about. You know, Joe Thomas doesn't necessarily want to write about 777. He wants to write about, finishing with 3 wins.
He doesn't, but the point being is that journalism now has to be all consuming because there's only so many people doing so many jobs, and they all have to ask the questions. That's the simple fact.
That just makes it easier to control the narrative.
And they all have to ask. And the thing is, though, and this is what Everton I think have got to be very careful of, is I think in the last few weeks, maybe not on the video press conference, but in the written press conferences, Sean Dyche is starting to open up a little bit about Everton Football Club. He said the other day, you don't know. Sean Dyche is the kind of guy you can tell.
Promote Sean Dyche like home football manager.
Well, yeah, and I don't mean that in a bad way, by the way.
Me neither.
Don't mean that in a bad way, but he got asked whether this was where this ranks with doing jobs, and he said, "This is my hardest job. You don't know half the things that have been going on in the background." And at some point, Sean Dyche is going to start telling people what some of those things were, because he
No, he won't.
No, I think he will.
He won't.
I
He's
think
told not to.
I personally, John, I don't think I'm starting to think Sean Dyche knows that he's got a lot more power at this football
He shouldn't have
club.
it.
But no one else has got it.
Exercise leadership.
That's the point.
Exercise leadership. Yeah. Explain to the employee what he's allowed to talk about and what he isn't allowed to talk about. And if he breaches that, discipline him.
The point being is, though,
sack him.
The point being is though,
please don't.
Other people,
not now.
Other people aren't taking their responsibilities at their football club. So if the manager keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and someone says to him, "You're doing a terrible," Sean Dyche would probably love to come and speak to anyone out there who's said he's done a bad job and gone,
prove that he's
seen
not.
Seen this. Yeah. This tells you everyone that I haven't done a bad job. And if he just drip feeds that information to people,
does the means justify the end? Do you think? Not
by telling people.
No. Generally, do you think means justify the end?
In what way?
If we started the season saying, use the manager as an example, that 45 points is good. Right, we'll accept that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding points deductions, right? What's our maximum we can get now? How many points have we got?
30. What have we got?
On the board, how many have we got? 39 in it? Something like that? I don't know.
No. At the moment, what have we got? 33. 33.
Look, wherever Tony is, we haven't got a clue.
I just know I'm safe. I'm not.
Everton haven't got a clue how many points we've got. Yeah, but the point is, right?
36.
Yeah. 36. I'm talking about winning the last 3 games, 45. Win the last 3 games.
45.
Right. So be 45 and win the last 3 games, but we had 8 taken off us.
Yeah. 44, right? Yeah.
So we'd have seconded for 45, wouldn't we, at the start of the season?
Yeah.
Because we'd know that's safe. But what we wouldn't have voted for would have been third of the season, you get half those points. The last third of the season, you get the other half. In the middle third, you don't get any at all. But the means have justified the end. That's what the manager will argue.
Yeah, he said it's a season's work.
777 over the 20 million quid at 1 minute to midnight tonight.
Yeah.
Do the means justify the end? They've done it. They've delivered the money.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, it's about how we get there, right? Now, if you do business change, right, or anyone who works in advisory or consultant type organisations, some of the bullshit phrasing are journey management. Managing the journey from there to there. Managing the journey from 0 points to 45.
Yeah.
You have to manage the journey to keep stakeholders on side. And what's happening right now is no one's doing journey management. No one's saying that. For all we know, there are people who are really in the know, which would be Colin and any of the people close to me inside the football club, and your Josh Wanders and your Steve, his partner and all that sort of stuff, and the various people who are in and around it. They all know there's no big deal here. Everything's cool. It's going along in its own sweet way, and we expect to get there, right? But the rest of us are cacking ourselves, right? So
in the same way that at the beginning of March, or when you've just been beaten by 6-0 by Chelsea,
Absolutely.
and you can't predict the future, it's the same way, isn't it?
Absolutely. So retrospectives are easy, right? Now, a manager who hadn't won for months, right, who thought he maybe was the Messiah just before then because he'd won a number on the bounce, now may think he's winning games on the bounce and his position is more secure. Of course it's more secure. Of course it's more secure. A manager lives and dies about whether he wins football matches or not.
Yeah.
And when you're winning football matches, you're more secure. But seriously, really seriously, if Sean Dyche finds himself in a room just with print journalists offering his opinion on stuff outside his remit, then someone needs to head him off and say that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And you're right. The journalists then should push and say, we're going to keep asking the questions until you provide us with somebody who can at least make us feel like we're being listened to. Right? Because no comment to some questions is like saying yes when you don't want to say yes, or it's like saying no when you don't want to say no, isn't it? Right? People will say, I can't tell you why this isn't happening, but I think you can guess. Therefore, that indirectly tells you a rumour is true. But if Sean is drifting off piste a little bit through choice, that's because it's for the good of Sean, right? And it doesn't need to be for the good of Sean. It needs to be the good of the football club. And therefore, it would imply there's no corporate policy on how we're outward facing on this subject. But we know probably that there's people inside the football club who can help control the narrative, who themselves don't know what's going on. So you've got a little cliquey group in a little bubble. Doesn't sound like Everton, this, does it? A little cliquey group in a little bubble who know what's going on and no one else does. And that's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying, please tell us everything that's going on, like some people would want to know everything about everything. But saying absolutely nothing is mad. We wait for journalists to tell us when our appeal's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, the journalist is a really good one in Al Myers. Is he right? Is he wrong? I don't know. I trust Alan, therefore he's right.
Yeah.
But why haven't the football club told us? Probably because the Premier League said, don't tell anyone yet. Well, somebody's told someone. Guess what, Everton? When the Premier League were telling you not to say things 6 months ago, they were telling people stuff. You've always got to think the enemy's on the outside, the friendly ones are on the inside, and in the Everton family, in quotes, the fans are on the inside, not on the outside. And there's a lot more of us. We can dampen all this down if it's wrong as fans, because we're the ones consuming it. We're the ones getting upset. We're the ones getting frustrated. We're the ones, churning, feeling in your stomach because the WhatsApps I've had were pretty much what you started off with. Here we go again. We don't need to. Here we go again, do we?
But that's it. It's not a case of. I don't read this thing and go, oh, that's true and that's true and that's true. I read
There's
it.
There's no alternative view, though.
I read it and go, I wanted to talk about football today.
You put in our WhatsApp group before we had 2 days.
Yeah.
And other people are saying the same. Here we go again.
It's just
no need.
And
for
you're
it.
absolutely Everton could head all this off. You're absolutely right. I have no issue saying this. They treat us like kids.
We behave like kids sometimes.
No, but it doesn't matter what we behave like. We are treated like kids all the time. We are customers, John. We are customers. We pay our way. We do our part, and we get treated like kids. And you're absolutely right. Stuff with like finding out about stuff. Well, he said, and Bobble said, and Alan Myers said, and Julia put it out, and all this. And it's like, what's going on? What's going on?
I don't know, mate.
Why can't the football club, like all of the ways they can put stuff out, all of the ways they can release information? I mean, I know it's slightly different, but anytime someone like Real Madrid puts something out, right? They put like a proper press thing on Twitter. We can announce that so-and-so has gone for an operation, or so-and-so's done this, or so-and-so has done that.
Basically statements, yeah.
Yeah. And yet, lots of clubs in this country, including ours, just want to keep everyone in the dark. Everyone just dead dark. And then once a week, when they have to, because the Premier League says, suddenly Sean Dyche wonders why he's being asked a million questions that don't concern his lineup on Saturday, Sunday or Friday. It is absolutely crazy. In a information hungry, all we do all day, all of us, is just go.
Don't look at how often your screen's on.
Exactly.
10, 12 hours a day.
I do it all day. I find myself taking my phone out of my pocket when I'm walking the dog, and I have no idea why I do it.
But you look at it.
I just go, and I catch myself sometimes. What am I doing? It becomes, we all do it. We're all hungry. It's
an always-on society.
We are, yeah. We that's why you have 24-hour rolling news. That's why news stories become old as soon as these.
That's why you're up at 4 a.m. Yeah.
No, 3. I'm watching YouTube videos.
You reined it in a bit, have you?
Doing research.
But yeah, I mean,
we live in that society, don't we?
But listen, we could have had this debate about the way our club engages with the fan base.
We have had
a year
this
ago,
debate.
2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, and there's this perception, and you see it on social media, that when the ownership changes, all this is going to change, right? It's all going to get better overnight, right? Now, perception can change quite quickly, but the truth is the actual change that's needed won't happen overnight. It never can.
If these run a football, this is the way I look at it. If these run a football like they do takeovers, then we're in trouble.
That's a good way.
We're in trouble, aren't we? Because
there's a slight but there's a slight difference. But yeah, absolutely.
No, but you know what I mean. If you brought a lad on trial and he was absolutely terrible, then what do you expect him to be like if you sign him? It's like this organisation, whatever anyone feels like this 1 minute to 12 thing. not for our fan base. No, sorry. You know, if we are signing,
I'm going to say slight difference though, right? Because you're going to get into emotive things like buying footballers and stuff like that, right? Lots of that stuff plays out based on rumour and, you know, vested interests, journalists get paid for clicks, whatever, right? But if I said to you, right, that I'm going to give you some money by midnight tonight, would you worry about it for the rest of the day?
No.
But if I said to you, I'm going to give you the money I owe today, when would you start worrying about it?
Probably tea time.
Well, there you go. But that's life, isn't it? That's life. Have you ever gone to meet someone at lunchtime and waited an hour for them to turn up because their view when lunchtime was different to yours? Yeah?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And these are the vagaries of the English language, right? And unless you test understanding with people, so you mean this, right? So I don't have an issue with anybody saying, I'm keeping my money in my bank account as long as I can, but I'll definitely deliver it to you when I promised. But I will tell you when it is. But if I just leave you hanging and said, today, or the famous by close of business, well, close of business in this room is like 7 at night, isn't it? It's not 5 at night or 4 at night or end of a shift or whatever. You know what I mean? So you have to test understanding. These are basic communication skills. I hear something, I test if I've understood it, I get confirmation, right? If that's the case, I don't have an issue.
Yeah.
But why is anybody out there, you know, and I don't even know where Simon Goodley works from, say he's in London, Simon from The Guardian, why has he got insight that somebody else hasn't?
Yeah.
And how do we know it's true?
Oh, listen.
You know, because he's probably asked some very direct questions of somebody, because he might even ask the same fella I asked at the PR company and got the same answer. And the same answer means, you know, no, we don't. Work out for yourself why. Yeah. So behavioural practices which are different to the way you do it yourself always make people uncomfortable. You're a person who pays his bills as soon as the statement lands. I'm the person who pays them when I get round to it, but certainly no later than the latest possible. It's unusual for me to pay ahead of time.
No, I get all that. But we're in a situation now where this has been going on since September. And
it's ridiculous.
We're nearly in May.
It's ridiculous.
And we haven't... The thing the Premier League put out, the Premier League, once they let you in the door, the Premier League, it's almost like they go, nothing to do with us anymore, lads.
What are you on about now?
When they said that they can say no.
Oh, I see, right.
Well, they don't, though, because they seem to be able to say no right at the beginning. But once they've let you in, it's almost like you can sort it out yourself.
See, there are organisations and perversely, public sectors like this a lot if you ever try and trade or do commercial arrangements with the public sector. But the Premier League operates through its own timetable, right? And its processes seem to be predicated on it takes as long as it takes. Now, if you look at someone trying to prove they're a fit and proper owner, right? Imagine it never, ever, ever went into the public domain. It wouldn't matter how long it took, would it?
No.
Just it's done when it's done. Oh, there's another piece of paper you've missed. I'm dealing with the VAT, for this lot, for the VAT man now. Every time the VAT man asks us a question, we give him the answer. Guess what he does when we answer it? He asks us another question. It's ongoing. 3 months so far, isn't it? Yeah. I think, right? We haven't done anything wrong. They're just doing one of their regular audits, but they keep asking for something. Every time we give them exactly what they want, they ask for something. They don't say, send us all this stuff. Yeah. They say, send us this. Now you've sent us that, send us that. Now you sent us that, and so on. Because to them, it's process orientated. It's a day job. Someone comes at 9 in the morning, goes home at 5 o'clock at night, does what they do in between, and they don't care what the real progress is. If it was all happening behind closed doors and we had no idea, it looks like in the good old days.
Oh, no.
Look, in the good old days, transfers. Yeah. No one knew. We couldn't fret about it and so on. So then you say, who started all the noise, right? Why didn't Farhad Moshiri wait until he'd passed the fit and proper owners test before he fessed up that he was selling the thing? Who knows? Hindsight. Isn't it wonderful? Projects go late one day at a time. When he made his statement, he thought it'd all be done within a month or two, didn't he? Yeah. Right? And here we are. Whatever it is now, 6-7 months later, and we're listening to the same noise. Someone needs to grow up and talk to the fans. It's as simple as that.
Well, ultimately, that is the problem. That's the problem I have. It's the problem I've had for a while. is that you get stories. Of course, you get stories from one side. You've had all the Josh Lamar stories and other, and then you might get some friendly stuff on the other side. We live in a culture where no one believes anything anymore. Post-truth and all this nonsense. The only people who know are the football club, and they're using just a nice little excuse of we can't say no.
They can.
Your fans are. Everton fans have just had a really good week.
Yeah.
Look at the difference it makes when Everton win games. Look at the difference it makes when Evertonians are positive. Talking to I'm doing the 1878 with Sam, and Sam was like, "Look what I did! I went out and bought a shirt straight off. I bought an Everton top, sitting there in his retro Everton top. Feel happy, you buy stuff."
Well, you getting accosted all the way down Goodison Road, yeah?
Well,
with big smiley faces.
Well, normally and that can go either way depending.
Of course, it can, yeah. But if you give everyone 10 in the player ratings, then you're not upsetting anyone.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's everyone, when everyone's happy and everyone's pulling in the same direction. What a football we've got with football club we've got. The minute stuff like this comes out, and I'm just looking in the comments here. People are like, could we go into administration before the end of the season? Could we be docked 9 points? Relegation? Though the cogs still start.
Well, if you answer that question objectively, the answer is yes. But if you ask a different question, what's the probability?
Yeah.
Quite low.
Yeah. But that's the problem, isn't it?
If you ask binary questions, don't kick off when you get the answer you don't want.
The Premier League put that tweet out on Saturday, which was soon deleted.
Stupid buggers.
But that's the thing. But then that gets people's minds going.
That's just.
But we live in that kind of society now, don't we, John? Where that kind of stuff gains traction.
Is it possible that we get announced tomorrow or whenever it comes out that Nottingham Forest's appeal failed? Yeah,
it's possible. I don't think they will fail.
Hang on a sec.
Go on.
We get told that their appeal has failed, and they're very, very naughty boys, and they're getting an immediate 25-point deduction. Is that possible?
No.
Of course it is.
It's not, though, is it?
It is, because the regime that the Independent Commission and the appeal boards can do gives them unlimited powers to exercise anything they like. They could expel them from the league, right? Therefore, it's possible.
Okay.
Therefore, is it likely? Is it likely?
No, but isn't the most anyone can get is only what the Premier League asks for?
No.
Okay.
The judge can give what he wants, right? So it's not likely, but it's possible. Therefore, to the numpty who did the Premier League's thing, clearly, if there are ongoing appeals, which could have an impact on points deductions, then Sheffield United are relegated subject to those. And then someone with a brain said, unnecessary.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, his boss.
And so they deleted it. But as we all know on X-Twitter, too late, mate.
Yeah.
First person who sees something like that takes a screen image of it, right? That's what I do anyway. So yeah, you can tell me why you think Forest are going to get points back.
I just think they will.
Why? You can't just say, I think they will.
Because I have good feelings about things, and when I have good feelings about things, I go with them. That's how basically my life works, John, and it's served me well so far.
Well, it'd be an extraordinary situation if they do.
I think they'll get. I generally do think they'll get a point back or two.
Well, that's fine, but you've got to give a reason. Otherwise, it's just, I think they will. Okay.
Well, why do you think they won't?
Because there's no justification for it.
Well, that's just your feeling, isn't it?
No, it's fact.
It's not just your feeling.
They breached the rules. The entry point for the rules is 6 points. They got 2 points returned to them, right, for reasons. Okay. Unless they found other reasons. And therefore, I would expect you to say, John, the other reasons are these.
The process is so flawed.
That's different. That's the lack of trust in the process.
That I believe they'll get 2 points.
You're putting a number on it now and all.
I'm putting 2 on it.
Well, Forest fans won't like you because they're convinced they're getting all of them back.
Well, they like me anyway. I call them scabs.
Right? But that's the point. We're talking about football fans, right? Nottingham Forest football fans think they're going to get all the points back. That means no sanction at all. So how's that work? What's the point of you going to court for a crime you have definitely committed if the judge decides at the end of the appeal process that actually I'm not going to punish you?
Yeah. No, it's a fair point.
It's mad.
It's a fair point. The whole
And then for any Everton fan out there who says, we should just pull stumps on our appeal, right, because we're safe now, will you say that if they get 2 more points back? And we chose not to appeal? Because I think Everton should go in 2-footed, knee-high, because if they get points back, they already have got a light sentence compared to what Everton got when we got 10. Yeah. Lest we forget, we got 10, they got 4.
Yeah.
Right. And now they're complaining 4's too big. What happened to our 10? Oh, goody, we got a few of them back. It was only 6. It's still 50% bigger.
Let's come back to this.
Yeah, anyway.
This is really important. Really important.
Go back to the important stuff.
We spoke yesterday about... hang on, let me just... I've had a couple of super chats.
Good.
Make sure
good.
people are getting their...
money's worth.
Stephen Lee says, any good news, please, lads?
Yeah, we're
live.
We're in the Premier League next season. We've won 3
just
on
won
the bounce.
3 games, and we've got a game of footy on Friday. We're just trying to get rid of all this news today. We're just trying to get it all clean.
Is that your plan?
Just get it all cleaned out today. Cleaned it all out. Yeah. And Glenn says, could Ned go on a date with Hannah from S Club 7? Yeah.
40.
So what's wrong? What's wrong with people who are 40?
Well, you know he only goes for teens.
Have you got your mic up? You know that's really unprofessional, don't you? Not having your mic up.
Well, he might say something he wishes he hadn't.
Answer the question.
20 years ago, yeah. Hannah
20 years ago, you
when
would have been 4.
When she was
That's illegal. You're disgusting.
No, but I'll be going
What's
back
wrong
in
with your
time
voice?
now.
He's going back in.
What's wrong with your voice?
It's fine.
It's not fine. Is this because you stayed out till 9 o'clock till Monday morning because you were on a date with some girl?
I was getting a feel for it.
I bet you were. Let's leave it there.
Did that answer the person's question? I think he said no, basically, didn't he?
So let's go back to what we said yesterday. Yeah, I think he said no. But I know also they're very much not called S Club 7 anymore.
They're not what they call now?
S Club 6.
Well, S Club 3 now.
Is it?
One of
It's only 3.
One of them died. So for a start, what are you? That's disgusting. That is they're just called S Club now. Leave it. Walk away. Walk away. We spoke yesterday, John, because there was that story yesterday about Everton putting a deadline also on. Stop it, Ned. You're like that close. You're wearing shorts for the start. There was that story yesterday about Everton putting a deadline. Why can't Everton put it? Because you said that was nonsense, and I put that in the news. Why can't Everton put a deadline on this? And where are all the magical people who with all the magical money?
Well, because Farhad Mashiri is selling his shares to 777.
Okay.
And Everton, if it's not Farhad Mashiri, they're all employees. So how can they put... No one at Everton can tell me to sell my shares.
No, okay. Well, let's call Farhad Mashiri Everton then.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being pedantic, but when we see stories which are rumour-driven stories, and they start talking about entities which don't have the authority to do what they claim and they're doing, right? If it had said Farhad Mashiri places deadline on 777 Football Group, no one would believe it. Because who's talking to Farhad to find that out?
Yeah, nobody.
So they're making it up, aren't they? It wouldn't surprise me, and this what I probably got into the foothills of this before, if there was, in quotes, a deadline placed upon 777, because they seem the sort of organisation who react to deadlines. They're a just-in-time organisation. You need to tell them when just-in-time is. Hence the analogy around a goalkeeper will keep wasting time till the referee books him, because until he gets booked, he's not really doing anything wrong in his mind. The same with these guys. If they keep getting deadlines extended, soft deadlines, but they need to be told there's a hard line here. And that is like literally a door, and the price of getting through that door is hand this money over, do that, do that, do that.
You own Everton Football Club,
I
right?
wish.
You own Everton Football Club.
Yeah.
You've sat there, you've watched all this, but
I'm Farhad, you mean?
You're Farhad.
Right.
For you to be comfortable for Everton next season, when are you putting that deadline in?
For 777?
Yeah.
Well, if it were me, I'd already be running a parallel track.
Yeah.
Right? Because I would already be listening to these faceless, anonymous people, if they really do exist, and say, come on, show me the money. Yeah. And the game that's getting played there is, of course, is this mythical group who are back in some shadows somewhere, obviously want the club for free, right? Free in the sense of Farhad Mashiri rather than anything else. But I'd have been running a track already for ages because I would have, I know we're putting pressure on the Premier League, and one assumes these things are happening behind closed doors, right? Because the Premier League can't be being so naff about their process without us pushing them. And therefore, all roads would lead to 777 struggling to find the capital or not being given a deadline when they have to complete. Fard Mashiri told the FAB, I'll speak to you in the 3rd week in May. So maybe he thinks something is happening before then, right? Or he's just kicking the can down the road, and when the 3rd of May approaches, he won't be there, right? So maybe he thinks it's the end of the season. I would have thought the end of the season is the absolute last gasp, because I assume right now that people like Kevin Thelwell with the manager have worked out some of their player plans. That guy's out of contract, let's not get him a new one. That guy is out of contract, let's extend him, Ghana, someone like that. This, that and the other, blah, blah, blah. They have their plan. There's a whole finance team there so they can put budgets together, right, and stuff like that. But they still need ratification by the board, and the board that needs to be making the decisions is the one that's just walked through the door, not the one that's just walked out. Yeah, so you can easily see how the current board will say, we're not going to make decisions that are going to crystallise after we've left. But last day of the season, why would it be later than that? Because as soon as this noise goes into the summer, we should get worried as fans, even more so than we are now.
Well, it starts now, doesn't it?
Because players out of contract, if no one's going to give them a new one, they'll just walk away.
Well, the problem is that the stories, that's it, players are a contract. You've got players that we might want to sign, and they'll want assurances. They don't want to hear any of this noise.
Absolutely.
They want all that. And the season, I mean, you know, God, we know people who work in that world. The work started a long time ago.
Absolutely. As soon as the window closed.
You know, that's where the work started. This stuff is ongoing, and Everton have got
the Euros gives you an excuse, but we're not shopping in those markets anyway. Right?
The Everton have really got to, you know, get some confidence back. People have got to get confidence back in Everton. We're all right that we've stayed up, and I think a lot of us are like, that's that one season down. We've got sort of one more, and then we're in the stadium, and then you know it's.
But the hierarchy is narrower now than it's ever been, because it's a 3-man board. One's the advisor to Farhad, and the other one's Colin. Right, so that's not a decision making forum. There's no challenge going on in that room.
Yeah.
Right, and there's some processes that need to be followed, which need to be transparently in the best interest of the football club, like selling the shares in the first place. I mean, you've got the silly situation that the sale of shares, right, according to the articles, is ratified by the board. Well, the board is Colin, an employee, Farhad, the guy who wants to sell the shares, and Farhad's advisor.
Yeah.
Now, there's this clear line of sight there to conflicts of interest, right, about whether it really is the best for the football club or not, right? So there's lots of little baby things in and around what's going on, but I wouldn't have got here a classic, you know, if I was going there, I wouldn't start from here type of situation. You've heard that on the sofa many times as well. And that's just based on project experiences. Just kicking the can down the road never does you any good whatsoever. Just gives you less time to achieve what needs to be achieved. And hard decisions have clearly not been made in the past. Hard decision number one was to put, you know, the iron to the feet of the Premier League about what actually, how do you actually achieve fit and proper owners pass, right? Specifically. And that could have been done in 2023, in my view. But it's all been allowed to drift one day at a time where tomorrow never comes.
Well, let me ask you, I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this question before. Are you worried about this?
In what sense, sorry?
I mean, just in the general sense, are you worried for the club's future? Because that's the overarching thing, isn't it? Yeah. Lots of people in the comments, I'm looking at, people are seriously worried about our football club.
I'm concerned about the process. I'm not worried about the future.
Okay. So, because I think that's the number one thing. All of this, all of Thomas 777, bills being paid, it's the future of our football club.
It is.
That's the number one. So let me just, before we sort of wrap it up, so if they haven't paid that money, I'm not saying they have or they haven't.
Can I just put it in context?
Go on.
If they haven't paid the money that we're led to believe by rumour that they should have paid. Yeah. So if they haven't paid that money.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It means they haven't got it.
But what does that mean for the football club?
Farhad Mashiri will have to pay it.
And what if he doesn't? Where is that?
We're insolvent.
So that money, that 15 to 20 pound is paying bills and towards the stadium. Is that correct? Or is it just paying bills?
I've no idea.
Okay.
I would imagine a bit of both.
Because again, people will ask the question, will be worried about the stadium.
You'd have to prioritise what you pay,
Mm.
right? Clearly. And typically the taxman's the top of that pile. So we must be paying our taxes.
Mm.
So if you're on the inside, you'd be thinking, when's our next tax payment due? And have we got the money for it?
Mm.
Right now, the concern would be that the 777 thing has been allowed to linger so long and then they finally fail. But at least that would be seen semi-positive by some, right? Because at least we now know they failed, right? And then Farhad Moshiri would have to be the lender of last resort. And if he hasn't got it, then that's the fast track into insolvency and therefore administration.
Is it
Because we
more,
can't pay our bills in that sense.
is
can
it
we?
more likely MSP come in and try and take a piece of the football club or a piece of the stadium rather than taking the club to administration or forcing the hand?
They have no right
Okay.
to do that, do they? I mean, they've granted the extension for their debt. Again, we need to know when that extension was, right? So maybe all the stars are aligning, yeah? But my understanding was that extension was a short, whatever short means, and that's the point. It's just a word, right? A short extension might be 3 months to some person. It might be 3 days to somebody else, right? But they exercised the right they had to give an extension, and they did that. And that's an extension to the football club settling the debt.
Yeah.
And then clearly the intention is that it will be the new owners who will provide the funds to allow the football club to settle the debt. But there's stories out there that says had they not got the extension, they could have settled the debt.
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. That means they've got the money then. And if they've got the money, 15, 20 million quid's neither here nor there, is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can talk till the cows come home about trying to untangle rumour or opinion, particularly if the opinion is based on A, not the whole story, or B, a vested interest about a certain narrative. So it's easier, I know I keep saying this, just to ignore it. Have your own view if you can. If you don't have your own view, then pick a horse, right? And and if you want to listen to the most negative view, that's your horse. If you want to listen to the most positive view, that's your horse. I think the uncertainty and the doubt, and therefore the fear, comes from when you've got two horses and you don't know which one to get on.
Well, the problem is, and we see both sides of it on social media, you have very intelligent people talking negatively, and you have very intelligent people talking positively, and often those two people talk about each other. And for the average fan, that's where it's really
Both have an emotional investment.
But that's where it becomes really difficult, doesn't it? Because if you
look about administration, because that's the one that might make people most fearful. There are no current indicators other than opinion and rumour about what we may or may not do that we're likely to go into administration.
Well, that's it, isn't it? But the minute people start talking about administration as in a path or a non-path, someone says, why are you talking about administration? And that's half the battle, isn't it?
Generally, you only get on a path to administration in the sense that when the board of directors have concluded that we're no longer realistically a going concern, or at a certain date in the near future we won't be a going concern, and therefore we're going to have to call in some administrators, right? Or, so that's like a time-driven one.
Yeah.
An event-driven one is a creditor demands their money back right now, and you haven't got it. Same difference.
Is there a time scale for that? As in, not a time scale for Everton?
So when a creditor can just say, I want my money.
Just
and I want it
literally
now.
like that.
Yeah.
And it's straight away.
Yeah. Now, the indication, again, if you start reading between the lines, is that the only entity out there which may be perceived to be one that would be prepared to demand its money back is MSP, because they're the ones that we asked for an extension from. That's because it had a deadline on it, right? So they had to have their money back a certain date, and then the football club, I guess, asked for that date to be extended. My understanding is that extension was to allow the time to negotiate a longer extension. And one would assume if you were talking objectively without emotion, so I'm Everton, say, and you're your MSP, I'm saying I need the time to organise the restructuring that I need for the business going forward, and part of that restructuring is dealing with the money that we owe you. If you pull stumps on us now, we'll go down, you won't get it. Simple as. Now, when you think them as an organisation had the right to say no, and then call in, because of some of the collateral they got, fundamentally a controlling interest in the football club, that would have required them to do what 777 are doing, which is hand over the working capital. They clearly decided that wasn't the case. That's not what they wanted to do. If they say that's not what they want to do, does that suggest to you that the risk they perceive to them losing their money is less than having to hang over 20 million quid a month every month?
Go on, you tell me.
Mate, if I owed you 200 million quid, right?
I'm just like that now.
Or you owed me 200 million quid and I didn't make you pay it because I knew you didn't have it. And therefore I wouldn't get any of it. Or I could take control of all your biggest assets, but then I would be the person liable for paying the other debts. Then it's all a risk call, right?
Which is what a lot of businesses though, isn't it?
And I guess that there's a lot of blinking going on here about whether someone can get hold of the stadium itself as a physical structure.
But the positive side is the rewards could be massive, couldn't they?
Yeah.
The reward, that stadium, Everton, our fan base going forward. If you look at it that way, there could be so. You've said loads of times, you just get over this. I know it feels
the promised land is just within reach. It's just over there.
You just can't see it because there's a big hill in the way of it, like
It's
that. We've got to get over. Shark infested water.
It's water. Actually, we've been waiting ages for the ferry.
Yeah.
But no, seriously. But the same things that would say, "Oh, MSP have done this because they want the stadium." Well, all these faceless, anonymous people in the shadows can see the value in this football club when the time comes. And it's just, mate, they're playing Jeopardy, right? Playing just in time, playing just do blinks first, and all those sort of things. And the sad part for the wider fan base is it's all going on sort of in public. Mate, I've been in negotiating rooms where it has been literally, one guy saying he's walking away from a $1 billion deal, and you just look at him and go, okay then, right? It's like playing poker sometimes. It's sad.
Right, we're gonna leave it there because we've
done it to death.
I'm exhausted. So basically, I think we need to start hearing from from our football club. So
something's better than nothing.
Just start giving us something and don't leave it to the manager. I've said this loads of times.
The manager needs to be protected.
I feel sorry for Sean Dyche. I really do when it comes to this. So let's I'm sure Toffee TV Premium members will be talking about this at 5 o'clock, and if you've put a comment, I'll read it out at 5 o'clock. But I want to move on to more than a game. Me and John are going to talk about the salary cap because John's got to go and have an important meeting as well. So head over to more than a game. We're literally going to be starting in like a minute. We're going to go straight over. So please, all of you, just come over. We'll have a chat about the salary cap and what that means as well. Right, thanks for watching. 5 o'clock, we'll be back on Toffee TV Premier live. If you're not a member, become a member for the price of a coffee. A coffee, for God's sake. Link is in the description, QR code as well. See you later.